If there is anyone out there who still doubts that America is a place where all things are possible, who still wonders if the dream of our founders is alive in our time, tonight is your answer. It's the answer that led those who've been told for so long by so many to be cynical and fearful and doubtful about what we can achieve, to put their hands on the arc of history and bend it once more toward the hope of a better day. It's been a long time coming, but tonight, because of what we did on this day, in this election, at this defining moment, change has come to America.
Are you ready for the...
Hello, Americans. I've showed you how our most prolific founding fathers were Freemasons, the largest and oldest secret society out here. I showed you how they used Masonic veterans from France to aid probably the most prolific president and Freemason, General George Washington, the Freemason Revolutionary War. You've seen the rituals performed on our newly founded country, or what should I say, the Freemasons' newly founded country. I showed you the Declaration of Independence was written by Freemasons, the alterations that were made by Freemasons to further conceal their intent. I showed you how the Constitution had a great influence from Freemasonry. I showed you how Washington, D.C. had a great influence from Freemasonry, starting with George Washington himself having a big part in having geometrically shaping the city that was soon to be named after him, the Federal Triangle and the celestial stars, and the paganism, which is a combination of beliefs within Masonry, which is a religion. Now I want to bring you to the modern day passing Master Mason in the Blue Lodges. This is the outer faction of Freemason, your pillars of communities, people who do public outreach. This is what Albert Pike, who's another prolific Freemason, who wrote a book called entitled Morals and Dogma. And in a paraphrase from that book, he said, "It's not thee for the initiate to understand the ancient mystery of Masonry, but only for he to have the illusion that he knows." This degree, the past Master Mason degree of Masonry, is said to be, and I quote, "the height of ancient Freemasonry and the most sublime of all degrees in all Masonry. Royal art not even accepted. When it is conferred, the lodge is generally filled with members and visiting brethrens." End quote. Malcolm C. Duncan, Mason, and author of Duncan, Mosaic Ritual and Monitor, published in 1866 on page 87. This is when the legend of Hiram Abiff, the widow's son, his murder is reenacted with the passing Master Mason. From the reading of this ritual myself, it takes hours to perform. I would think 3 to 4 hours. This is really like a Broadway play. They get into full character with wardrobe. It's really amazing. This is what is one of the biggest legends and myths within Freemasonry, and they're told it's a myth, and that's what really is like contradictory of their whole belief system. And I don't understand how people can't grasp that. In this degree, the passing Master Mason is taught that Hiram Abiff, who was the widow's son again, and he is, I quote, "Hiram Abiff was universally acknowledged as the third most distinguished then living, in many respects, the greatest man in the world, end quote. Again, Duncan's Mosaic Rituals and Monitor on page 88. Hiram Abiff, who was one of the head workmen employed at the building of King Solomon's temple. His tragic death is nowhere recorded except in the Freemasonry archives. Okay? But they say this is a mock killing and resurrection, and it is a myth to use to teach the brotherhood between the Mason. And that reason they say the Royal Ark isn't even accepted, that's because they're speaking of the Knight Templars. Now, in this degree, both points of the compass are elevated above the square. This is symbol that man has reached immortality by resurrection from the darkness, quote unquote, into the light. And this is when you become an enlightened citizen, so to speak. And again, they feed them with a bunch of allegories and a bunch of symbols. And they try to show them good brotherhood by accepting all faiths, but yet you pray to an altar, to a deity which you don't know of. And when you go through this particular process here, they ask you, they have junior deacons, senior wardens, junior wardens, the most worshipful for one of the lodge. And I'm going to get with you in the next lecture about exactly some of the verbatim that goes on with this. But they have this individual who's pretty much naked besides from the waist down, his breast exposed, somewhat similar to the Baphomet in the George Washington monument that I showed, I think, in one of my previous videos, exposing again a Masonic and deity, actually an Egyptian deity back to paganism, the Baphomet. And then you have the George Washington, which is carved in a similar fashion. It was actually sent out to Spain, and a stonemason from Spain carved it. And when it came back to the U.S., of course, you know, eyebrows were raised to why did George Washington look this way? You know, breast exposed, hands in a certain way as the Baphomet. But again, all of this was brought into the United States. And I've showed you in our previous videos our founding fathers. And it's a fact that our founding fathers, you know, wrote the Declaration of Independence. And it's a fact that he said these sacred truths is what was going to initially be in there. And he changed that to, we hold these truths self-evident to mask the fact that we're creating a new Masonic order, a new world order. We're bringing this new order in. And again, once before, I told you to bring in this new world order, you have to first get rid of the old world order, which is the order of God, the Creator. And that's why the top of the eye of the pyramid isn't fully placed on the pyramid on the dollar bill, because their new order isn't in place yet. They're still working on it. The 33rd Supreme Court of the Scottish Rite, which is located also in Washington, D.C. It stands pretty tall. It has 33 steps up, leading to 33 degrees, meaning the same thing. The pyramid will come down. And I'll explain more to you, and I'm going to really get in depth, like I said, with certain verbatim from certain books that describes what exactly an initiate goes through for that past Master Mason degree. Until then, America, please wake up, unmask the truth. Do not be hoodwinked. That is one of the P.S. That's another thing that goes on with their rituals. They put a hoodwink around their eyes. So, you know, from the beginning, you're being hoodwinked. Please don't be hoodwinked. See things in as reciprocal. Reverse what you see.